In the final countdown to the presidential and congressional elections, Governor Glenn Youngkin finally has something to scream about. On Friday evening, as many people were slipping into weekend mode, the U.S. Justice Department went into high gear. It announced a lawsuit against Virginia, alleging that the Youngkin administration is illegally kicking people off of the voter rolls. The lawsuit takes issue with an order by Youngkin, a Republican who fancies himself a president in waiting, that requires removing ineligible voters from the rolls every day. DOJ says that's a violation of federal law, that officials can't do that 90 days before an election. The reason? To avoid mistakenly denying eligible voters a chance to go to the polls. The federal government filed a similar lawsuit against another Republican-led state, Alabama. Here in Virginia, private groups that promote voting rights are also suing the Youngkin administration over these disputed purges. Without getting into the weeds, this federal lawsuit focuses on how election officials in Virginia use information from the Department of Motor Vehicles to determine a voter's eligibility and citizenship. DMV has a role in this because people apply for a driver's license and they're handed a voter registration application. And sometimes those forms are improperly completed. It may be human error by an applicant or a bureaucrat, but it can lead to eligible voters being declared ineligible. For an ambitious Republican like Youngkin, this lawsuit is manna from heaven. It's a chance to yowl about the supposed weaponization of the Justice Department by President Joe Biden, not to mention the fellow Democrat who could succeed him, Vice President Kamala Harris. That the action comes less than 30 days before voters decide between Harris and former President Donald Trump is giving Youngkin, Attorney General Jason Miyares, the state GOP chairman Rich Anderson, and any politician with an R after his or her name to argue that this lawsuit is a naked attempt to swing balloting in Virginia to the Democrats. And that, Youngkin and others bet, will rev up Republican voters, that more of them will be mad as hell with Harris, and that more of them will then show up for Trump. Democrats aren't saying much about the lawsuit. Some may consider it an unnecessary distraction, but more than a few welcome DOJ's intervention because they think it exposes Youngkin as the Trumpy MAGA type who's hostile to so-called new Virginians, more and more of whom are Asian and Hispanic. So that means the lawsuit isn't without supposed benefits for Democrats because it ties Youngkin to Trump and all those other Republicans who don't like that it's now easier to vote. More to the point, that it's now easier for a lot more people, read Democrats, to vote. Bottom line, this lawsuit, for all the huffing and puffing by both parties, is unlikely to alter the outcome of the election here. Virginia is shaping up as a hold for Democrats, who've carried the state for the presidency in every election since 2008. And there's a simple explanation for that. In presidential years, turnout spikes. It's in these national elections that purple Virginia turns a dark shade of blue. If that was in doubt, you'd see a lot of first-string Democratic traffic here. Harris, Tim Walz, and other big names. We're seeing the third string, Harris's husband and Walz's wife. Republicans aren't sending in their big names either. That means they have to make do with Glenn Youngkin. And that he has the stage to himself is a chance for Youngkin to do what he's been doing nonstop since his election as governor in 2021, tuning up his national campaign skills. For the Richmond Times-Dispatch, this is Jeff Shapiro.